This is the 10 Capital Eyewitness News with Greg Robson and Virginia Nichols.
World leaders gather in Jerusalem for the funeral of Yitzhak Rabin.
Detectives investigating Canberra's first violent home invasion.
And heavy rain changes track conditions for the Melb Cup.
Good evening. World leaders are gathering in Jerusalem areas.
On the eve of the Melb Cup, torrential rain is causing concern in Melbourne. More than 50 millimetres has fallen at Flemington. Trainers, owners and jockeys all worried by the condition of the track.
The fog and driving rain seemed to consume Flemington racetrack today, a stark contrast to Derby Day, but no sooner had racegoers poured home on Saturday when rain began to pour down on the track. At 9 o'clock this morning, it was officially declared heavy.
We've had 40 millimetres of rain to 9 o'clock, which is about 160 points in the old, and the penetrometer is 5.33, so the track is heavy at the moment.
With rain forecast overnight and tomorrow, the heavy rating isn't expected to change, and concerns today the race would have to be cancelled for the first time in Cup history were quashed by course officials.
Well, you'd want torrential rain or something like that. As you said, Kim, it hasn't happened in the past, and I'm sure it's not going to happen tomorrow.
Braving the rain early this morning, the Cup stars embarked upon one of their final gallops at Sandown. Double Trigger and Vintage Crop favoured even more so in the wet conditions. Not having to brave the inclement weather, many of the Cup's former champions, after the traditional Cup parade through the city's streets was cancelled because of the rain. But someone didn't tell 1987 Cup winner Kenzai. However, the Melb Cup media conference did go ahead as planned, indoors, both jockeys and trainers trying to play down any weather concerns.
I think if this weather keeps up at the moment, they won't be following us around with an ambulance. I think it'll be the SC Rescue. So.
And they weren't the only ones gearing up for the big race. At Flemington, work was underway both on and off the track. Finishing touches were done to the many marquees, some beginning to resemble mini palaces. Spring cleaning was underway throughout the grounds. Even the roses didn't escape much needed attention after taking a battering from the wind and rain. This afternoon, course officials were forced to close several car parks, including the river, nursery and birdcage sections, people encouraged to catch the train. But despite these inconveniences, the VRC is confident the spirits of racegoers will remain high, as did the notes of the Australian Girls Choir today, who will perform with Michael Cormick before the big race. Kim Carter, 10 News.
When we continue in a moment, Canberra school children failing the 3 R's.
A security guard shot dead in a bungled robbery.
And later, the amazing success of horse trainer Gay Waterhouse.
As picking a winner at the Melb Cup is picking the fashion to match the fickle Cup Day weather. Today's deluge sent some style-conscious punters into a frenzy.
For some, the fashion stakes are just as important as the races themselves. Traditional Cup goers often spend weeks planning their outfit for race day, the colours of the season playing an important role when deciding just what to wear.
You'll find that most people want to wear what's out there, the colours that are in vogue for this season. And I find that this year in particular, most people have been looking for pastel colours.
And while the weather may ultimately be the deciding factor for the fashion fastidious, those who clothe the clothes horses say Melburnians are up to the challenge of a wet day.
This sort of weather happens every year, so people are just prepared for it.
For milliners like Tamazin Dale, rain, hail or shine makes no difference to the amount of preparation work for Cup Day. During the past few weeks, she spent thousands of hours making hundreds of hats to don the heads of high society. And with the rain expected to tumble on race day, she's had a few funny phone calls.
Just people making jokes about them, are they waterproof, things like that, but hats unfortunately aren't, so you have to either decide to take a big umbrella or save your hat for another day.
But whatever designer dress or do you don tomorrow, no doubt this, the humble umbrella, will be the most important fashion accessory. Loreen Deal, 10 News.
Now a brief look at some of the other stories making news around the nation.
10 News.
Sydney trainer Gai Waterhouse will have 4 horses at the starting gate for the big race tomorrow at Flemington. If one of them crosses the line first, she'll become the first woman trainer to win the Melb Cup.
Some say she's the best thing that's ever happened to Australian racing.
It's every trainer's dream. They're just so exciting. Only rode in the treetop.
Gai Waterhouse blitzed the Sydney Carnival. With Saturday's win for Nothing Like a Dane, she also became the first woman to train a Victorian Derby winner and has 4 horses in tomorrow's Melb Cup. But the public often only sees her glamorous winner's circle image.
6 furlongs 3/4 and work home from the top of the straight. Holding them together till the last furlong.
In reality, it's a 5 a.m. start at Randwick Racecourse, where Gai trains some 65 horses.
She's much stronger and more forward at this stage of her preparation.
She's only had her training licence for 3.5 years, but Gai Waterhouse was born into racing. Her father, TJ Smith, broke all the records, and it seems his daughter has inherited the same ability. She says women trainers do have an edge over their male counterparts.
I mean, you're used to caring for people, be it your husband or children or, you know, sometimes your parents. You're used to a more sort of caring role.
Gai's father also taught her how to lose.
You just look on to the next race. My father has a philosophy, that race is run, get on to the next.
And that's the Melb Cup. Her horses, Nothing Like a Dane, Few Are Chosen, Electronic and Stony Bay all have a chance in the race that stops a nation. So all eyes will once again be on Gai. Lisa Clifford, 10 News.
Sport now with Peter Chapman, who's come back from England in time to plunge on the Melb Cup.
Pity I didn't have some money to plunge on. And unfortunately, I think I've brought the English weather with me. After the break, we'll hear from the trainers of the favourites, hopefully to point you in the right direction.
Won the Melb Cup. Jean a length and a half, and how easy for him.
Action over the rain in Melbourne this morning amongst the trainers of the 23 horses that will contest tomorrow's Melb Cup. The English visitors didn't seem to mind the rain, although they did express their concerns that the track might be turned into a bog.
At Sandown this morning, the overseas raiders must have felt rather at home. But both Cup favourite Double Trigger and 93 winner Vintage Crop were rugged up to ward off the rain and the cold. Vintage Crop's track rider Dave Phillips even donning a North Melbourne football jumper in a bid to stay warm. Both gallopers were given only light exercise again this morning. And while Double Trigger's connections don't mind the rain, they don't want too much more.
It's obviously not what we would have wanted, really. We are doing everything we can to convince these horses that we're not coming into winter, and the Australian weather is telling them the opposite.
It'd probably make the race more like a turn a quarter mile race, and obviously he's raced and won over longer. So we don't really know is the honest answer, but I don't think it'll do any harm.
But it's almost a case of the wetter the better for Vintage Crop.
Dermot's very, very pleased now. Obviously, he was looking for that bit of give in the ground, and he just said before that it's just perfect, exactly what he wants.
Meantime, at Flemington, many of the Cup hopefuls were out bright and early as they rounded off their preparations for the great race. Jean was, as usual, one of the first out this morning, and the rain won't harm his chances of defending his crown.
If there's no more rain today, we'd have probably a dead to slow ground, which I think should be perfect. I wouldn't like it to see it get any heavier than slow.
Nothing Like a Dane appears to have taken no harm from his Derby win. He could provide Shane Dye with an amazing treble. Cox Plate, Victoria Derby, Melb Cup.
I've had a great week or great 10 days. That's behind me though. You don't think of the past, you've got to think of the future, and let's just hope come about 3:30 tomorrow I've got the cup.
Caulfield Cup winner Doremus is fit and well before attempting to become the 9th horse to capture the big double in the same year, something Bart Cummings did in 1991 with Let's Elope. This year, though, the master trainer is without a runner for the first time in 8 years.
These things happen, we can't keep the sound all the time, but we'll be back there next year.
Early punters have given a pointer towards the topical tip for the Cup. Storm coming in for massive support at the call of the card.
Crown Casino was the venue for this year's Call of the Card, where some of Australia's biggest bookies take on some of the nation's wealthiest punters. And today, both were in good form. The money flowed fast and furiously, with the prospect of a waterlogged track not scaring anyone. The Lee Friedman trained Storm caused just that. He was backed to win $700,000, with one punter alone backing him to win $550,000. There were also big bets on Jeune, Count Chivas, Fewer Chosen, and outright favourite Double Trigger. Everyone agrees the wet weather has made tipping almost impossible.
This is the 4th year in succession, I think, that we've had a wet Melbourne Cup. And as far as I'm concerned, I've just thrown all the form away now. You might as well have a go with a pin, I think.
And if I asked for a tip tomorrow, could you give us a tip?
Well, I'm still sticking with Count Chivas a little bit, each way.
So this is the official market for the Cup. Double Trigger is the 11-2 favourite, with Vintage Crop and Doremus next in the betting. Count Chivas is at 12-1 and Storm was backed into 15s. For those looking for value, the rank outsider is the Phantom Chance at 125-1.
Wet weather and the Melbourne Cup. Well, lately the two have been inseparable. And it doesn't look any different this year, but one thing is certain, it could never be as bad as 1976. A Kiwi horse called Van der Hum and the most famous mud-running victory of them all.
1976, when rain ruined the Cup, when flippers were fashion, when neither horse nor jockey were recognisable. And you reckon you've got it tough picking the winner.
Don't know what it is down the extreme outside. It's completely black. It could be perhaps...
In fact, that's Van der Hum, the most famous mudlark of them all.
Van der Hum is holding Golden Black at bay, and Van der Hum is going to win the Cup. Van der Hum's got on to win from Golden Black.
He'd never won a single race on a dry track. And here he was, wiping the mud from the most prized trophy in Australian racing. New Zealander Bob Skelton was the man behind that muddied, messy face 19 years ago. Now he's a trainer on the Mornington Peninsula, and what he'd give to have a horse like Van der Hum in the Flemington field tomorrow.
I'd love to be riding Van der Hum in the Cup tomorrow. That'll do me.
The mementos from 76 are many, but it's the memories that matter most. Rainy days like today make a man like Skelton smile.
It just seemed to get darker and darker. Thunder, I've never heard thunder like it. Lightning, it just struck across the sky, and looking out from the jockey's room, one could hardly see the winning post.
He loves races in the rain, not just because of that famous day in 76, but because it's the great leveller.
This is a part of racing. This is what makes racing, because it doesn't matter how good one is, how much one pays for a horse, what the circumstances are, the old battler can get up and win.
So even if it does stay wet and wild, Bob Skelton won't mind. He'll be at the Cup tomorrow, minus the mud, but still backing the mud runners. This time, though, Vintage Crop. Matthew White, 10 News.
Both the Australian and Pakistan teams have arrived in Brisbane to prepare for the first cricket test, which begins on Thursday. Amid allegations of bribery and ball tampering against the Pakistanis, an atmosphere of high tension is inevitable at the Gabba.
Test captain Mark Taylor and his teammates arrived at their hotel well prepared and confident of the outcome of the test.
Yeah, it's been a good build-up for us. All the guys have been getting a few wickets or making a few runs, so all goes well for the test.
The Aussies have good reason to fancy their chances. Fresh from their history-making triumph in the Caribbean, where they regained the Frank Worrell Trophy back in May, they're now focused on what's been billed as the World Championship against the Pakistanis.
Australians have beaten West Indians on their own soil, and they must be very happy and very confident. And you can say that the two giants are going to get together.
Despite the drama over bribery allegations and ball tampering claims, controversy won't be a problem.
I don't think it will be overshadowed by what's been going on off the field. Hopefully, I'm sure that both sides want to put that behind them and get on to play some good cricket.
The only change to the 12 that inflicted the West Indies' first series loss since 1980 is Craig McDermott, fit and well again for Tim May. Pakistan are dangerous. Any team containing speedmen Wasim and Wacker has to be respected, though doubts persist over the fitness of both bowlers.
It's a lot better now. It was just bruised. I've got hit on the ball, on the thigh, so I was a little bit of pain in my thigh, so I just decided to rest for about an hour or so, put some ice on it. It's like okay now. Bakar, yes, definitely. If he's going to let us know tomorrow, he's 80% okay. He's a little stiff, but he's going to let us know tomorrow.
Pakistan won the series 1-0 when they last met, but have won just 3 tests overall in Australia. Tony Peters, 10 News.
Canberra Raiders hooker Steve Walters will miss the opening month of the new Super League competition after being told today he needs a complete shoulder reconstruction. Walters, one of the most durable players in the game, suffered the shoulder injury in the Raiders' semi-final loss to the Bulldogs. McLaren driver Mark Blundell arrived in Adelaide today for what could be his final Formula One race. Blundell has been unable to secure a drive with a leading team. Sunday's race will be his last with McLaren. The Englishman may now switch to Indy racing.
Blundell comes to Adelaide's final race after finishing 7th in the Japanese Grand Prix 8 days ago. It's been a disappointing season for the once great McLaren team. Mika Häkkinen's second place at Suzuka was only the second podium finish for McLaren this year.
My teammate last race did a good job and had a good solid second, so there's an improvement, but unfortunately for me it's going to be the last race for McLaren, so maybe they can keep the upward turn for next season.
The Englishman is undecided about next season, but it's possible he'll be out of Formula One racing.
Yeah, if something doesn't come up which is good enough for me to go and score points on a consistent basis, then I'll go to Indy, because I'm not really prepared to go and sit at the back of the grid and make the numbers up.
Fellow Englishman Martin Brundle will drive for Ligier this weekend. He says despite reports to the contrary, Formula One racing is getting stronger.
We've had some stunning races this year, a lot of wheel-to-wheel stuff, especially the last few. So I've read about it, but I wouldn't agree with that.
Meanwhile, Commonwealth Games gold medalist Phil Rogers has swapped his water speed for track speed during practice for the celebrity race.
You get just as nervous before a race, I tell you.
Formula One cars are being cleared by customs as mechanics work around the clock to have the $1 million machines ready for Sunday's big race. Major drivers like world champion Michael Schumacher and Damon Hill are expected to arrive Thursday. While the team crews have already started work on the Formula One vehicles, fine-tuning is expected on Wednesday, with the first of the cars on the practice track on Thursday. Craig McGann, 10 News.
And that's all the sport we have for you tonight.
I better ask you, what horse don't we bet on?
Well, I've got 3 choices.
Oh, no.
Jeune, Doremus, and I think Count Chivas to make up the trifecta. Greg, I'm very confident with Jeune, 14-1.
I've got 11 here, so we'll see what we get. Thanks, Peter. To finance, the share market closed higher today after buying interest from offshore investors. The All Ordinaries rose 15 points and gold dropped 35 cents. To the stocks, BHP plus 28, the Commonwealth steady and the National Australia Bank up 6. Coles Myer rose 1, Qantas down 1 and CRA up a massive 36 cents and the Australian dollar at 75 3/4 US cents.
Still to come, Mike Larkin with the weather details.
And Selling a Dream, a new exhibition of early Australia.
For the best 2 or 3 weeks, even 1 month.
Watch out. Listen up, you little freaks. There's a new teacher in Springfield. This is one substitute. You're not going to screw it. Marge Simpson. And look who's become the model student.
Hey, Mark.
At 7:30, it's an all-new Simpsons. Then at 8, Fran stalking the hospital wards.
What are your symptoms? I'm 30 and single.
She's armed with a razor.
Shave him for surgery.
She's not afraid to use it.
Looking for a raise?
The Nanny, right after The Simpsons, Wednesday.
Just shut up and listen to me.
We're promising you a sensational power-packed season finale of Melrose Place. Thanks to Blockbuster Music, you could win a trip to LA to pick up next season's Melrose Scripts autograph. Plus, free concert tickets and a Blockbuster Music shopping spree in LA. Or watch Melrose Place and win a season finale sneak preview party with 20 of your friends and a mountain of twisties.
Block for all I care.
For a real Melrose Blockbuster, just catch Wednesday and watch Melrose Place.
Just how low can Flight Centre go? We guarantee the lowest airfares.
Hear ye, hear ye! Fly to Europe in '96 and save up to $2,000 per couple with Trafalgar Tours, Europe's #1 tour operator. Tour Europe or Britain on a Trafalgar tour, high season, and pay only $2,075 for your return airfare flying Cathay Pacific. Book now as offer is limited.
Call now on 131 600. That's 131 600.
Flight Centre, lowest airfares guaranteed.
Ivomec and Cydectin belong to the same drench family. While they're both excellent products, you're not doing your sheep a favour using them year after year. Because continuous use of this type of drench can lead to worm resistance. Resistance that could have been avoided by simply rotating to Scanda every other year. Do your sheep a good turn. Rotate to Scanda.
One club's giving away a small car every fortnight, and they think that's great.
But at Queanbeyan Leagues, they're driving an even better deal. This week, they're giving away $70,000. That's $10,000 to be won every day, every single day. Make your choice. One car a fortnight or $70,000 in cold, hard cash every week. Now you know why they say it definitely pays to play at Queanbeyan Leagues Club. Leagues ahead of the rest.
Weather now, and how's it looking for Melbourne Cup tomorrow?
Well, Virginia, good evening once again. I just got off the phone from the Bureau. In fact, the Bureau in Melbourne. It's raining lightly as we speak, and the forecast, as issued at 5:30 this afternoon, looks something like this. More rain to come. Rain at times, they say. The chance of a thunderstorm, cool, fresh east to southeasterly winds, and tomorrow's temperature range 12 to 18 degrees. That's according to the Weather Bureau, but I think it'll be mostly fine myself. Locally, we're looking also at mostly fine weather after some early morning clearing showers. Tomorrow, dress for a top around 16, 17 degrees. Let's have a look at those maps of New South Wales. And speaking of wet weather, it was just the northern part of the state that didn't actually get that pitter-patter of rain overnight. The top rainfall reading over at Jarvis Bay, 50 millimetres or 2 inches on the old scale. If we have a look at today's chart, there were some light falls of rain, mostly in sort of our neck of the woods. The majority is just up the road at Wagga Wagga with 13 millimetres between 9 and 3. Temperature-wise, it was -1 this morning at Charlotte Pass, and it got up to 31 degrees this afternoon and cloudy at Grafton. Around Australia today, temperatures about average or below normal, and there were some decent falls of rain. Up in Brisbane, for example, it got to 27 degrees with a late thunderstorm. Some 33 millimetres of rain has fallen in the past 24 hours. Here in the national capital, 14 millimetres. Down in Melbourne, 30 millimetres of rain. And up in Sydney in the 24 hours until 3 this afternoon, some 42. Most of it falling last night as a thunderstorm moved across. Temperature-wise, 23 degrees in Sydney. It got to 15 degrees in Melbourne today, 18 degrees in Adelaide, whilst over in Perth there was sunshine and 22 degrees. The satellite picture, and yes sirree, most of that cloud is sort of over southeastern Australia. It is associated with a complex area of low. We've got showers, we've got rain, and also some thunderstorms in that. In fact, there were some great apparently claps of thunder across northern New South Wales today, but very little in the way of rain. Now, most of that rain cloud will move across into the Tasman Sea, but before it actually does, that activity there will thicken, so rain will increase tomorrow morning, especially before